I am proud to nominate this path-breaking attorney, advocate, and judge to be the 107th Justice to the United States Supreme Court.
In the city of Brooklyn, New York, lived one of the most influential, empowering, and valiant women on this planet. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was the second woman to be a justice on the Supreme Court. Born Joanne Ruth Bader, she excelled in her studies throughout her life. The major influence in her life was her mother, who inspired her to be independent, ladylike, and smart. Ruth was born at the time that there was a lot of gender discrimination against women. The culture in the United States believed that women should be at home raising children. But Ruth's mother believed that girls should have an equal opportunity to create an impact in the world. This inspired Ruth to fight for gender inequality as a young woman. When Ruth started high school, her mother was diagnosed with cancer, a disease that she succumbed to on the day Ruth graduated from high school.
3 months after her graduation, Ruth left to attend college at Cornell University. She met and later married a very fine gentleman named Martin Ginsburg. She graduated first in her class from Cornell with a bachelor's degree in government. The couple decided to enroll in Harvard Law School. There, Ruth became the first female member of the Harvard Law Review, a prestigious law journal. When Martin was drafted into the U.S. Army, Ruth moved with him to Oklahoma, where their first daughter, Jane, was born. Upon Martin's discharge from the Army, the family moved to New York City, and Ruth finished her final year of law school at Columbia. Again, she was accepted into Columbia's Law Review. First in her class, Ruth Bader Ginsburg had difficulty securing a job after graduation. She applied for a clerkship position in the Supreme Court, but she was rejected by Justice Felix Frankfurter. However, with the help of her Columbia Law School professor, she was accepted by Judge Edmund L. Palmieri for a clerkship position. And thus, she began her judicial journey and illustrious career.
The dean greeted the women in the first year class with an invitation to dinner at his home. And we thought, oh, how thoughtful. The dean brought us into his living room and called on each of us to tell him in turn why we were at the Harvard Law School occupying a seat that could be held by a man. You felt in class as if all eyes were on you, and that if you didn't perform well, you would be failing not only for yourself, but for all women. And I attribute part of my success in law school to my daughter. She was 14 months old when I started. I mean, every day at 4 o'clock, my time at the law school was over, and it was children's time. Each was a respite from the other. When my daughter went to sleep, I was happy to go back to the books. Employers were above board, open about it. They would say, we had a woman lawyer once, and was she dreadful. Our strategy was the soul of simplicity. It was to go after the stereotypes that were written into law. Like, the first case I argued here was Frontiero v. Richardson. She is a lieutenant in the Air Force. She gets no housing allowance for being a married officer, and her husband doesn't have access to the base medical and dental facilities. It was an afternoon argument. I didn't eat lunch because I was afraid I wouldn't retain it. When I got to the podium, I was at first terribly nervous, and then looked up at the justices and thought to myself, these are the most important judges in the United States, and they have to listen to me. They have no place to go.
Sex, like race, has been made the basis for unjustified, or at least unproved assumptions concerning an individual's potential to perform or to contribute to society. These distinctions have a common effect. They help keep woman in her place, a place inferior to that occupied by men in our society.
After working for Judge Palmieri for 2 years, she began working as a research associate for the Columbia Law School project and immediately was promoted to be an associate director of international procedure.
In 1963, Ruth was hired as a professor at the Rutgers School of Law, but was informed that she would be paid less than her male counterparts because of her gender. Influenced by Sweden's implementation for gender equality, she was determined to abolish gender inequality in the United States. In the 1970s, Ruth Bader Ginsburg co-founded a women's rights journal called Women's Rights Law Reporter, the first journal to focus exclusively on women's rights. Ruth empowered women in America through this journal and taught them the rights they deserved. From 1972 to 1980, Ruth was not only a professor at Columbia Law School, she also co-authored a book on sex discrimination. This book was the first law casebook ever written on that subject. It created knowledge in the community on how gender discrimination would negatively affect our community. In 1972, she co-founded the ACLU, a women's rights nonprofit organization. The ACLU litigated over 300 gender discrimination cases, many in which she was lead attorney. By winning 300 cases, ACLU proved that women should get equal rights, same as men. She fought 6 other cases and won 5 out of the 6 cases, proving that gender discrimination is harmful to both men and women. On April 14, 1980, President James Carter nominated Ruth to the U.S. Court of Appeals, where she proceeded until 1993, when President Bill Clinton chose her the latest Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Confirmed by the Senate almost unanimously, Ruth continues to serve on the Supreme Court today.
Her road has not been easy. RBG has had to overcome many serious illnesses during her term on bench. She has fought cancer several times, including colon, pancreatic, and lung. During her treatments, she's only missed 6 days on the bench. Known for her determination, and at age 86, RBG continues to work out twice a week with her personal trainer, with whom she demonstrates her strength by doing 20 push-ups a session.
Without Ruth Bader Ginsburg, women of America today would have been a caged bird, trapped from soaring in the blue sky. Because of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the women of today can gracefully fly across the horizon with pride and power. If it wasn't for RBG, women would have been in her place today, a place inferior to that of men.
Throughout her long life, Ruth Bader Ginsburg has accomplished great things. It is she who is credited with abolishing gender inequality for women in the USA. Hardworking, fair, intelligent, and very humane, RBG continues to be a force to be reckoned with.